Good afternoon, everybody, all of my GMP friends and people that are thinking about GMP. We've just completed over the last few months three great GMP projects after 22 months of not traveling, and they have been wonderful. We've had a great time. Well, sometimes when people are considering going on a project, we understand that one of the reasons that they sometimes hesitate is a fear of how are they going to raise the funds to pay for this project. Well, today we're going to be talking to Alan Suska, and Alan is going to share with us how he supported himself or raised the support for his projects, 30 projects over the last 8 years. So let's bring Alan on right now.
Well, good evening,
Hey,
Ken.
Alan. Good to
Good to
see
see
you.
you.
Hey, we've got such a little bit of time here, and there's really so much that we could talk about. But let's get right into it and dive in, because what we're talking about is raising your financial support to be able to do a GMP project. And we've taken over 5,000 musicians on projects over the last 19 years, and we've had just so many great opportunities. And you have chosen to be a part of a number of projects with us, and that's been a great blessing to us. And I know it's been a great blessing to you as well. So I'd just like to
Indeed.
ask you right now, first of all, how did you find out about GMP in the first place?
Well, Ken Hughes and I worked together at Opryland 19 years ago. And whenever this was all starting, he encouraged me to go ahead and sign up and get those emails. And I did immediately. And with having children in private middle school, high school, and college, never took the opportunity to really dive into it and take a trip and go on a project. We happened to do some works together several years later. In fact, in 2013, and you kind of it hit me pretty hard, I would say, when I was talking to you about that, and that I knew Ken Hughes and all about global missions and haven't done it. And in your very direct way said, well, you just haven't made it a priority. Anybody that knows you knows that voice. Anyway, you were right. You were right. And later that year, you told me that you needed a trumpet player in Hungary. And you wanted me to go home and pray about it and call you in the morning. Well, as would happen, Amy and I did. And we said, yes, it was time. Both girls were out of college, and we decided that it was okay and we would have the funds to be able to go on a trip. And that's how it all started.
Wow. Now, so initially, did you? Let's talk about right about the funding.
Okay.
So, what did you need to do at that point in time to gather funding for your first project?
Well, immediately we did have some money set aside, but we went to our church and I did a presentation for our church and told them about Global Missions Project. And this was something I really felt that I should do. It was time in my life to be a part of this. And I was able to raise some support from my church members, my church family.
Now, so I'm curious about when you say raised from some members. In other words, people attending the church were willing to step up to give you some support.
That's correct.
Should I be so bold as to say that what started it was the fact that you just talked about it?
That's it. That was exactly right. All I did was mention it to him. I told him I felt like it was time. And as you know, I didn't even know that I was going to lose my job before I went on my first trip. I had a full-time job, and we expected everything was going to be fine. And lo and behold, God closed the door, and he did it. And it was an important time. But I mentioned it to the church. I did a presentation about Global Missions Project, and I had several people that were willing to step up and send money for me into GMP, into my account to help me get started.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, was there anything specific in your presentation? Did you talk to people personally? Did you use email? Tell me about that.
I did a presentation during the church service, and then
Oh,
yes, and then I got
standing. Okay, got it.
And then I got to talk to people individually afterwards when they had questions. Of course, I had the brochure about that trip and told them that I had heard about it for so many times, and it was a unique opportunity for a musician to serve through music.
Now, I believe that you also told me that the leadership of your church believed in what you were attempting to do because they were missions driven in their hearts.
Yes, our church our church budget was 30% to missions for as long as I can remember. And Amy and I had been going to that church since 1982, and their focus was missions.
Do you have any stories you want to share about anything specifically? How it worked together? Because I understand Amy was able to go on a project later as well.
Absolutely, she was. So the church, in a meeting with the elders, actually had asked why they hadn't been supporting me, because I had decided that I needed to do these projects, that I was called to do these projects, and that I couldn't keep asking the same people for money. I just felt that was just would be a hardship on them, because I was called to do it. Well, as it turned out, the church decided to support me monthly. So we go
Wow.
from there. It was pretty amazing, and the Lord has blessed immensely through that. Well, then Amy decided that she wanted to go, and it was a special time because her father had dementia and was in an institution for several years, and she took care of him religiously every day after work, went to see him, went to take care of him, clean him up and all that. And he passed away, and she said, well, it's time for me to go on a project. That was an interesting time. So
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Because I want you to finish a little bit about that story about her
Okay.
as well. It's
Well,
exciting
as it turned out, my work as a freelancer had slowed down quite a bit. And for $7,000 for two of us to go on a trip was going to be a little bit of a stretch. And I have to confess, I kind of argued with the Lord a little bit and kind of negotiated. And as it would turn out, I had a special meeting with a friend of mine at the school where I was teaching, where he reminded me of Abel and being a shepherd. Now, he had to rely on the Lord for everything. Of course, I said, well, sure, of course.
Who are we talking about?
We're talking about now one of the teachers I taught with at Overbrook School, in the Catholic school, who came down the hallway one day because I had talked about my new grandson, Shepherd. And he said, isn't it interesting that Abel, as a shepherd, had to rely on the Lord for everything? And I said, oh, yeah.
We're talking about the son of Adam and Eve, right?
Well, it was Cain and Abel. And of course, Abel was the one that the offering was accepted and Cain wasn't. And it was interesting how he brought that up. But he emphasized that again to me. And that's when I realized that I had been kind of holding back and not sure that we could afford to go. And I went home immediately and said, Amy, you're going on the trip. As it turned out, she had a very special purpose on that trip, and that one of the musicians had called you actually and told you that he probably wouldn't be able to come because his wife was recently diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and he didn't know what to do. Well, Amy's purpose on that trip, as I found out from the Lord, as he admonished me with that, is that her purpose was to take care of that lady, his wife, in the rehearsals, in the concerts, walking to and from the hotel. And it was absolutely God's calling on her life at that time. And I was a little negotiating, and he corrected me on that very quickly.
That's interesting because the number of projects that I've been on as well, I have seen God put the teams together every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the early years, as we first got started, I was concerned about, are we going to have enough of this instrument or enough of that instrument or whatever, the voices? How was it going to balance out? And now I do not have any concern about it at all. I see God put it together. But here's an instance where your wife, your spouse, is going on the project with you with no particular, she's not going to be functioning musically. She's going as a support person.
Correct.
But God had already planned and provided a unique opportunity for her to do ministry that entire week with this lady. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That is awesome. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I had been so thankful that I have been able to raise the support for all of my trips to this point, and I felt embarrassed that I actually questioned the fact that God would provide what we needed. The interesting thing about that is after we came back, I was, of course, doing the checkbook balancing and things like that, and it appeared that nothing had changed in our checkbook balance.
Yeah, even after all the expenditures.
After all the expenditures, it was where it was when we left.
That's it's kind of like God's plan with the tithe, isn't it? You know, it's
Yes, exactly
you know,
right.
and I think it falls into that category also that if God wants you to go, He's going to provide a way.
Amen. Without a doubt.
And you have seen that happen time after time, I know. And
Yes, I have.
Because for those of you that didn't do the math, if Alan has done 30 projects in only 8 years, that's an average of four complete mission projects per year. And I know that many people cannot do that time wise or whatever,
Right.
but it's just a great testimony to what God can do when He wants you to do something. And then that word called obedience comes into play, and
yes,
just getting on there and going for it and say, God, show me what you want me to do, and I know that you'll take care of the way. That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's exactly right.
Well, Alan, tell me this. Before you ever went on a trip and you were considering or whatever, did you have a feeling about that or a feeling after you began to take GMP projects?
Well, I had gone, my daughter had actually spent 2 years in the mission field, and I'd gone on over to where she was serving, and I swung a hammer. I moved bricks. I did everything that was needed at that time. And I was, of course, very fulfilled, but more fulfilled because my daughter was serving in the field and I was just supporting her. But I had no idea how enriching and how important it was for me when I started doing Global Missions Project, because now I had an opportunity to truly share God's gift of music and the gospel in a way that I would never have imagined before.
So God was taking your specific talent that He had given you, and you didn't have to learn anything new. You just took what He had already given you and take it and use it for Him and for His glory, which is what you were doing in your life anyway.
Exactly. Well, yes.
But then it was taking that next step towards fulfilling the Great Commission in your life and going, getting on an airplane in this case, and going to places where God could use you to reach people there. Well, I think that's an amazing testimony, and I want everybody to know that I've known Alan for a number of years now, and through the time that he has begun to serve with Global Missions Project, I have seen growth and spiritual growth and unique maturity in him. Now, let me say this about Alan. Alan's a Gideon. He's very involved in spreading God's word and taking it everywhere. And I've heard Alan share his testimony, and it's very, very powerful. But I know that Alan would assure me and agree with me that unique things have definitely grown him in ways that would never have happened without him being involved in GMP projects.
That's absolutely the truth, Camp. And I appreciate your saying that. I'm humbled even to consider that you've seen a change. I know I have sensed a change, and he has admonished me at times. He has encouraged me at times, but I've always felt that he has been there with me, and I have had the opportunity to serve, have him work through me, and not what I can do, but only what he wants to have done, and that I can be a part of it.
I think one of the things that comes out of your testimony that you've just shared about how you pursued or talked to people and also engaged the leadership of your church, just don't be afraid to ask.
Right. I actually am now getting gifts from family members that I would never have imagined before. But they see when I post something on Facebook or whatever, and they say, man, that's awesome. And I get a check in the mail. And they just say, keep up the good work. Well, I do the best I can, but it's God's work that's working, actually.
Now, you've already shared a lot, and you've shared very, very beautifully to us exactly how God has led you through this through this time with the projects that you've been on, the mission projects. Is there anything else that you would like to say to anyone who's on the fence, who hasn't decided whether they have made it a priority or not to jump on board with one of our projects?
Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord, and don't be afraid. He didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of power and strength through him. And if you're called to do it, he'll provide the funds. Even if you're not sure, pray, trust him, and go for it. Your life will be changed.
Absolutely. And that definitely is true for me as well. Well, Alan, I'm thankful to have you here today with us. And I want to say to anybody who's watching us today and listening to Alan's testimony about all that has taken place in his life through these projects, don't hold back. Sign up for a project today. Yes. And I'm so excited to tell you that we're finally moving again. And we're so thankful for the opportunities. We've got 6 beautiful projects lined up for 2022. And there's bound to be one there that would ignite your spirit and get you excited about it too. God bless you all today, and we'll see you next time.
God bless you. Thank you.